A lot of people have mistaken this breed for a Plymouth Rock or a Barred Rock. It's neither of those two breeds. This is the oldest breed in America. This is a Dominique. The Plymouth Rock and the Barred Rock would not even exist if it weren't for this bird right here. They are a result of crossing a Dominique with a black Java. It's very easy to understand why people mistake these birds because of their similarly colored barred feathers. But one of the very easily distinguishable characteristics is the Plymouth Rock, the Barred Rock, both have a traditional straight up singular comb, whereas the Dominique has a rose comb. Originally, we purchased 9 dual purpose birds, 3 Dominique, 3 Buff Orpington, and 3 australorp. I picked all 3 of those breeds because they had very similar characteristics. One being that they were very docile, 2 that they were good foragers, and 3 that they had the potential to go broody. Now that we've had these birds for a couple of seasons, I can make a pretty accurate assessment on how they've performed for us thus far. Understand that a completely different set of birds under different circumstances may yield us a different result. I think it's important to point out that there's many other breeds out there that may wind up being a more suitable choice for a dual purpose chicken. Some may perform better, some may perform not as well. So with any of these types of things, it really just comes down to your preferences, what your choice is, and what your expectations are for the flock that you're putting together. The areas that I'm going to assess them is based on how docile they are, their ability or desire to go broody, how good of a forager they are, egg production, how well they would serve as a meat bird, and what their hardiness is, both cold and hot. The highest priorities I place upon any animal that's on my property is how docile they are, how friendly they are. We saw that the Dominique was a little bit more interested in getting close to us, would allow us to pick them up, just walk right up to them and pick them up. And whereas the other 2 breeds were a little bit less tolerant of that. Another really important element of having chickens here on the property, because we run a composting yard here, is I want chickens that are going to be able to move material for us. And foraging, looking for food, turning over compost is a big part of that. So what I saw based on those 3 different breeds is the australorp clearly rose to the top for me. When they do turn material, they move a lot of material because they're a big, powerful bird. The Dominique was a better forager than the Buff Orpington. The Buff Orpington tended to be a lot less active in that regard, so I ranked them accordingly. The only one that actually went broody and hatched some chicks out for us was the australorp. The others did not, either the first season or the second season. They weren't interested in sitting on eggs. Egg production for any one of these 3 breeds wasn't anything that I would say is exceptional, but they definitely lived up to what it was that the stated claim was as far as the number of eggs, the size of eggs. We were averaging somewhere around anywhere from 4 to maybe 5 on the high end when you're looking at annually how many eggs per week you're getting. And so they all got an equal score with regard to egg production. As far as meat production, there's really only one of these breeds that stands alone, and that is the black australorp. Of the birds that we had, they are clearly the largest. They are a big, powerful, strong bird and would be very suitable as a meat alternative. As far as how heat tolerant and cold hardy these birds were, I would have to give the nod to the Dominique. The Dominique's the only one of these birds that doesn't have a traditional comb. It has a rose comb, which is going to make it a lot less susceptible to getting frostbite. We don't necessarily get very cold temperatures here, but we do get extremely hot temperatures. And the Dominique performed very well, as did the australorp, but we wound up actually in the first season losing 2 of the 3 Buff Orpingtons that we had. This entire evaluation only got to see those birds for about a year. It may be a little bit of an unfair comparison, but that's what we're left with. That's the results that we got. And I've assigned a score based on all of these different categories, and I totaled them up. And the one that's come out on top is the australorp. Second to that would be the Dominique, and lastly, we wound up with the Buff Orpington. All of these birds are going to serve you very well in a backyard scenario, kind of unassuming. They can hold their own in the chicken yard, but they're not really necessarily going to be looking for a fight. So they're a pretty good choice, I think, for the average person. Whether or not we'll do them again, that remains to be seen. That's the oldest breed in America, the Dominique. Quite an interesting bird, and one you might want to give a second look to. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.